Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 291 based on novel. So let's start. The old man slowly narrowed his eyes, stared at Xiao Yang opposite, slowly raised one palm, and slowly said, "If you don't want to, then. Rong Lao, didn't you just say you wouldn't intervene? I'm afraid it's bad to do so." At this moment, Bai Ruoxuan looked at the old man with a smile. Although his words were dissuasive, there was a sharp look in his eyes. The latter immediately knew it, smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, I always do what I say. Moreover, I can't do the kind of things that deceive people with big words. At most, I just leave this little friend here first. When you think about it clearly, you can leave naturally." For such threatening words, the expression on Xiao Yang's face gradually became gloomy. On the other hand, Ouyang Miao was even more impatient when he heard this. "Bai Rong, how dare you stop my guest?" Ouyang Miao is naturally aloof, not to mention that Xiao Yang is his guest and his appointed opponent. The old man is so casual that he depends on Xiao Yang's going or staying, which makes him how to bear it. "Hee, don't get angry. I just said that. As for what to do, naturally, it depends on what the gentleman means." Hearing the speech, Bai Rong smiled and turned his eyes to Xiao Yang. The threat in his eyes was very strong. Xiao Yang was non-committal. The palm of his hand holding Shen Chongkai tightened slightly, and his heart moved. The flame covered on it suddenly rose violently. In the depths of a pair of dark eyes, the dark meaning became stronger and stronger. He had never been threatened in his life. The old man's words not only could not bring him any pressure, but would only provoke his anger. On one side, Bai Ruoxuan's eyes slowly swept over Xiao Yang and others. He paused on Ouyang Miao. After a little meditation, he smiled and said, "Hee, they are all a family. Why hurt the harmony for such a small matter? You're welcome. When did my Ouyang family become a family with your Bai family? My second uncle is not your master, Shengjin City, nor a place where you can make mistakes at will." With a cold hum, while Ouyang Miao's face turned negative, a magnificent energy breath also instantly diffused from his body. At the same time, in the void around his body, a stream of water vapor condensed rapidly. In the twinkling of an eye, it turned into several water curtains to protect Ouyang Miao's body. Facing Ouyang Miao with such a posture, although the 8-star source sect in front of him was not afraid, he still couldn't help frowning. Looking at the middle region, Ouyang Miao can be called a leader among the younger generation. Even Bai Ruoxuan of his Bai family is also slightly inferior to the former. Even they have to be careful with this guy's arrogance. "Brother Ouyang, why should you be angry? The 3 clans are connected with each other. What's more, I'm also a disciple of the teacher. It's my wishful thinking. Today's matter has nothing to do with the relationship between our 2 families, but this friend, Shen Chongkai, and my Shen Yuqi are one body. I hope to see Brother Ouyang's face. Please give it up and give it to me." Slightly narrowed his eyes. Then, Bai Ruoxuan turned his eyes to Xiao Yang, smiled at the latter and said. Xiao Yang stared at Bai Ruoxuan opposite him. He was speechless for a long time. A moment later, he suddenly grinned and said, "Since the 3 clans are like one another, and the relationship between the Bai family and the Ouyang family is like this, you might as well cede the Xuanyu ruler in your hand to me in the face of Brother Ouyang. You are bold, my son of the White family. Can you touch it at will?" On one side, the other old man of Baxingyuan's sect immediately rushed to attack Xiao Yang with a heavy face and a step. Buzz. When the pressure came, Xiao Yang's face changed slightly and frowned. At the same time, he whispered in his heart. The power image was determined to be displayed in an instant. With his strong physical strength, he also blocked the old man's momentum. Ouyang Miao became more and more angry. Hey! Seeing this scene, the old man couldn't help but wonder. At the same time, Bai Ruoxuan's face became gloomy. He looked at Ouyang Miao, whose face was very ugly, and hesitated for a long time. Then he looked at Xiao Yang again, pondered and said, "Since you and I don't want to give up love, why don't we solve this problem in the simplest way, boy? If you have the courage, fight with me." If I win, you will give me the Xian heavy ruler. What if you lose? Xiao Yang lifted his eyelids and stared at the former with a faint way. Hearing the speech, Bai Ruoxuan was stunned. He couldn't help but be surprised at Xiao Yang's determination. Even if he couldn't help laughing, the two of them had fought each other before, and they also had a thorough understanding of their opponent's cultivation. Bai Ruoxuan is now in the early stage of the 4-star Yuanzong, and his cultivation is only a line worse than Ouyang Miao, while Xiao Yang is just a 2-star Yuanzong. Even a minute difference between the cultivation of the strong Yuanzong is enough to determine the victory or defeat of the war. Needless to say, there is a 2-star gap between Xiao Yang and him. Bai Ruoxuan really can't think of how he will lose. Ha ha ha, although it's funny, I have to admire your courage. At this time, I dare to dream about the result. Since you want it, I promise you. If you win me, Xuan Yu Kai, I'll give it to Bai Ruoxuan with both hands. You can't. Rong Lao, you may not be too careful. Are you still worried that I can't deal with this kind of goods? Bai Rong's voice hasn't been completely spit out yet. Bai Ruoxuan's light smile immediately interrupted it. Although the former was a little worried, he still took a deep breath, nodded slowly and didn't speak anymore. Then, Bai Ruoxuan looked at the other two Baxing Yuanzong. They looked at each other, then retreated and left the space on the field to Xiao Yang. Outside the court, Ouyang Miao and Bai Hua also retreated one after another. The three looked at Xiao Yang on the court and Bai Ruoxuan's confident face. They couldn't help looking at each other. There was a sneer in the depths of their eyes. As for Xiao Yang's strength, Bai Hua and Liana, needless to say, Tang Long, who was a 4-star Yuanzong, suffered a heavy blow in Yuan Huang's period. Now that cultivation has entered Yuanzong, their combat power is stronger than at the beginning. Ouyang Miao knows that Xiao Yang's combat power is far better than his own cultivation, and naturally he will not treat it with an ordinary heart. At the moment, Bai Ruoxuan is so arrogant. Once they fight, he was afraid that he would pay a high price for it. On the field, as the crowd dispersed, the home court was naturally handed over to Xiao Yang and Bai Ruoxuan, who were facing each other at the moment. At this time, the two people are holding huge feet, one black and one white, as if they were born opposites. Seeing that Xiao Yang was not timid at all, Bai Ruoxuan was also slightly stunned. He was a little surprised at the former's determination in his eyes, but he didn't have the slightest worry by relying on his strong cultivation. He wants Xiao Yang, who is wearing a black robe and holding a black ruler, to understand that in front of strong enough strength, pure perseverance can't create any miracle. Boy, I admire your character, but if you really dare to fight with me, in the end, you will only humiliate yourself. As the aristocratic son of the Bai family, one of the 3 major clans in the central region, Bai Ruoxuan also has his arrogance. Looking at the young generation in the central region, only a few of them can compete with him. Facing an unknown boy today, he will not have any fear in his heart. Xiao Yang didn't care about Bai Ruoxuan's sneer. While the fierce color in his eyes beat, the flame above the giant ruler in his hand also soared. With the rotation of his mind, the source gas in his body flowed into the giant ruler in his hand one by one. Under the flame, the gullies on the giant ruler were also filled with scarlet fire. During the flow, it was as hot as rolling magma. Seeing Xiao Yang like this, Bai Ruoxuan also sneered. When his arm shook, the white-black jade ruler in his palm trembled. The majestic golden source gas flowed on it, together with the surrounding void. Since you are stubborn, don't blame me for being ruthless. With a cold drink, Bai Ruoxuan immediately stomped on the ground, and his body shape was like a shell. The white giant ruler in his hand drew a bright light in the void under the lingering golden light. In the twinkling of an eye, his body shape had appeared in front of Xiao Yang, and the distance between them was less than a jong. Noisy. He looked at Bai Ruoxuan's body and glanced at the strong wind on the Shen jade ruler. Xiao Yang shook his head and let the giant ruler sweep across. His body only moved half a step to the right. Then the next moment, the fierce attack suddenly crossed. What's shocking is that the giant ruler surrounded by golden light, it was close to Xiao Yang's sleeves. In addition to bringing a hurricane, even Xiao Yang's sleeves had not touched a penny from beginning to end. What a fast speed! Seeing this scene, Ouyang Miao's face suddenly changed, and he lost his voice in surprise. Even the two 8-star source sects and Bai Rong couldn't help frowning. Although Xiao Yang's action seemed slow, it was undoubtedly several times faster than Bai Ruoxuan's rapid attack. Under that short distance, it can also avoid Bai Ruoxuan's attack so accurately. If it's a coincidence, I'm afraid ghosts don't believe it. At this time, Bai Ruoxian saw that Xiao Yang had escaped his attack so easily, and his face also showed a look of surprise. At present, his heart was sinking. Almost passing Xiao Yang's body, he suddenly shook his arm and waved the Xuanyu ruler in his hand. The front of the huge ruler suddenly turned. Bai Ruoxian also turned his body in mid-air and waved it to Xiao Yang again. Feeling the breaking wind behind him, Xiao Yang's face was fierce, his body did not move, and his head did not turn back. He waved the Xian heavy ruler in his hand straight back. Then, the two giant rulers collided heavily. This is the first foot. While the giant ruler was waving back, Xiao Yang's indifferent voice also came into Bai Ruoxuan's ears, but the two giant rulers had collided before the latter heard it carefully. Dang! When the two touched, there was a huge sound of gold and iron collision that shocked people's eardrums, and an invisible air wave swept away. The golden streamer on the Xuanyu ruler also broke out a strong energy fluctuation at this time, which severely impacted the Xuanzhong ruler in Xiao Yang's hand. In the face of such a powerful energy impact, Xiao Yang's face did not change at all, and his heart moved. The huge ruler wrapped in the flame suddenly trembled. Then the next moment, a ruler orned like a startling goose suddenly rushed up on the Xian heavy ruler and impacted with the energy on the Xian jade ruler. Then, it was a raw explosion. Bang! When the explosion sounded, the storm swept over, and Xiao Yang's body was unmoved. When he looked at Bai Ruoxuan, he did not retreat but entered. While the cold in his eyes surged, he rushed straight into the center of the storm, and a violent drink came out of his mouth. The golden light on the giant ruler suddenly appeared. In the twinkling of an eye, he condensed into a golden dragon, with a deep roar and shot at Xiao Yang. Until this time, Xiao Yang slowly turned around and looked calmly at the white giant ruler falling angrily. He didn't mean to dodge at all. The giant ruler attached to the flame pointed at the ground. When the flame rose, he waved the giant ruler violently, and a magnificent ruler orn also swept out. Second foot. The heavy ruler took the ruler orn, crossed the void fiercely, and then collided with the golden dragon fiercely, with sparks everywhere. The two collided, and the two figures were shocked to retreat a few steps. Bai Ruoxuan's face changed slightly. He didn't expect that Xiao Yang in front of him could release such powerful energy, and he couldn't win at one blow. Boy, I let you escape a blow with good luck. This time it's my carelessness, but next, let's see how you can resist. With an angry smile, Bai Ruoxuan moved, and a residual shadow stayed in place. When his body appeared again, it was not far from Xiao Yang's face at the moment. His hands held the ruler handle tightly, and the source gas in his body was constantly injected into it, making a golden light burst out from it, like a small round of the sun. Coronal light. In just a few breaths, the original white giant ruler has been filled with a holy golden light. The dazzling light shines on the street, and even the heaven and earth are difficult to distinguish. A strong and terrible energy breath also permeates from it. Is this Italian-level fighting skill? Seeing this, Xiao Yang slowly narrowed his eyes. He looked more and more fierce in his eyes. The palm holding the Xian heavy ruler also tightened. Later, when he looked up, the giant ruler in his hand also cleaved down from top to bottom. 3 feet. Kaimang shot out, but Xiao Yang didn't stop, but chopped one after another until Shengsheng waved the 9th Kai, which didn't stop. Almost at the same time, Bai Rong outside the field couldn't help changing his face. While stepping forward, the source gas in his body also flowed. Coronal light. The dazzling light shone in the whole world, and the terrible energy fluctuation burst out from the golden light. While Xiao Yang waved 7 feet, the Xuanyu ruler in Bai Ruoxuan's hand was also fiercely chopped down at this moment. The golden glare shot out from the giant ruler and rose in the storm. In the twinkling of an eye, it turned into 100 feet startling hong, which fell towards Xiao Yang like splitting the sky. Almost at the same time, the 7 feet that shot out from the Xian heavy ruler were also integrated. The flame soared and stood between heaven and earth in the shape of an unparalleled sail. From bottom to top, the golden radiance from the opposite burst into the sky. Then the next moment, the majestic atmosphere was like a volcanic eruption, pouring out from the place where the two collided. The surrounding ground and buildings also cracked countless cracks in a continuous click. Then there was a bang, which was destroyed. The invisible void, under the bombardment of these two terrible energies, broke open long and thin dark cracks, and the towering wave of energy filled the sky. Although Xiao Yang only had 7 feet, the power of the 7 feet was far better than before. Now the 7 feet break the sky into 9 feet. Even if he did his best, Xiao Yang was confident that he could resist Bai Ruoxuan's attack. Bang! The shocking explosion suddenly rang out at this moment, and their battle circle was destroyed at this time. The ground below was burst into countless debris, and the ripples of a fist's terrible energy spread out rapidly at this moment. Even Ouyang Miao and others outside the battle circle and the 2 elders of the 8-star source sect retreated dozens of steps involuntarily. Then he quickly mobilized the source qi in his body and blocked all the battle circle where they were. On the other side, Bai Rong stared at Xiao Yang, who was standing still on the field with a pair of dark old eyes. A killing machine surged in the depths of his eyes, and the source gas in his body also quietly moved to the palm of his hand. Shua. In the battle circle, the energy storm had not yet dissipated. When everyone was anxious, a violent breaking wind suddenly sounded from the middle. Almost at the same time, Bai Rong's body outside the battle circle also trembled. There was only a gradually blurred shadow left in place. His body had already appeared beside Bai Ruoxuan. He just wanted to raise his hand and blow a palm forward, but then, his complexion was suddenly changed. While his body shape was turned around, he slapped hard at the void on the other side. Bang! In the invisible void, 2 thin palms collided with each other, and the energy ripples like a hurricane immediately spread. While washing away the surrounding energy after waves, the low voice of another fist falling on the body also sounded in Bai Rong's ears. Then, the people present clearly saw a white figure, like a broken kite. He flew backward from the battle circle, and then fell on the ground. After flying for tens of meters, he slowly stabilized. Once again, he was Bai Ruoxuan. In the void at the moment, the 3 figures are also standing on one side. Xiao Yang is standing in the middle, and the other 2 elders are standing opposite. Their eyes are all staring at Xiao Yang in the center of the field, especially Bai Rong. The look on his old face is even more gloomy. He didn't expect that someone would fight for Xiao Yang, and look at the momentum of the other party just now. Shuwei is afraid that he will not be inferior to him. Damn it! He turned his head and looked at Bai Ruoxuan, who was now in ruins and almost unconscious. Bai Rong's face was very ugly. Later, he suddenly turned his head and looked at Xiao Yang, laughing angrily. Unexpectedly, you still have help. Hearing this, Xiao Yang couldn't help but pick his eyebrows and turn his head to the other side. At this moment, an old man dressed in purple robes and full of gullies was standing in the void. However, looking at his murderous expression, Xiao Yang didn't think this guy would be his helper. Help. If you hadn't stopped him, the boy would be the soul of my master now. Then, the old man in the purple robe vomited out his hoarse and fierce cold words. Hearing this, Bai Rong looked a little stunned. Listening to the other party's tone, he seemed to be rushing to kill Xiao Yang. Suddenly, he misunderstood the other party's meaning. At present, he was relieved and looked around Xiao Yang, staring at the purple-robed old man. He raised his hand, hugged his fist, and said with a light smile, "It was a misunderstanding. I was worried too much. In that case, please feel free." After that, Bai Rong quickly descended to Bai Ruoxuan's side. The 8-star source sect had taken pills for him. Although they had temporarily stabilized his injury, Bai Rong saw the deep concave scarlet fist print in front of the latter's chest. He was even more murderous in his eyes. He turned his head and looked at Xiao Yang with dignified positive color in the sky. If Bai Ruoxuan hadn't been seriously injured at the moment, he's afraid he's going to do it himself. Looking at the void at this time, the old man in purple robe who suddenly appeared was looking at Xiao Yang with a murderous face. His strong breath kept surging, which was quite amazing. "Where did you get such a strong man, you guy?" Ouyang Miao appeared beside Xiao Yang as soon as he swept his body. He still knew about the Bai family, but he had never seen the purple-robed man in front of him. Naturally, he couldn't speak rashly. "I've never seen him." Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang frowned and explained in a deep voice. The former also frowned and was surprised when he heard this, but at this time, the man in purple made a sound again, and the hoarse sound line was almost like an invisible sharp blade spreading among the world. "You don't know me, so you should remember Scorpion Mountain." Once the word Scorpion Mountain was exported, a terrible momentum swept through the old man's body, and immediately shrouded over Xiao Yang's head. Scorpion Mountain. Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows, then suddenly looked up and exclaimed, "You are a member of the Scorpion Dragon Beast family. I am the father of Scorpion Mountain. You killed Scorpion Mountain in the southern region. I really thought no one would know. Today, I will sacrifice my dead son with your blood." With a startling roar, the old man in purple robe suddenly shook his body and turned into a purple light and shadow. In the sharp and dignified eyes of Ouyang Miao and others, he shot directly at Xiao Yang in the sky. The sharp roar also shocked the sky. Until this time, the white array plate clenched between Xiao Yang's palms also immediately sent out a burst of golden light, and then it was thrown into the air. When the array was opened, spiritual stones also flew out of Xiao Yang's ring. Almost at the same time when the array on Xiao Yang's head was launched, the purple-robed man also appeared outside the array, and then a palm was heavily printed on the golden array cover in front of him. Dang! At the same time when the tremor sounded, circles of golden energy ripples also spread rapidly from the array cover. The residual force rebounded on it also shook the purple-robed man back more than 10 feet. When he looked up again, the array had been fully used to cover Xiao Yang and Ouyang Miao. 7th Order Array. Seeing the array plate like this, the purple-robed man's eyebrows immediately frowned and his face became more gloomy. As soon as the palm turned over, the blood color source gas of Senhan was rapidly condensed in the palm, and then waved hard, it turned into a streamer and collided with the array cover. The ripples surged, but it still looked very tough. "It's a good means. I didn't expect you to have such a high-level array. But in front of me, it's only a 7-level array. What can I do?" With a sneer, the purple-robed man wanted to rush forward again. At this time, Ouyang Miao suddenly stepped forward, frowned and said respectfully, "Elder, Ouyang Miao, the descendant son of the Ouyang family, I don't care what grudges you have with Xiao Yang. Today, I hope you can stop and do it. It's a face for the Ouyang family. I haven't been to the central region in person for many years. Why did I give birth to such an arrogant young generation? Ouyang family is one of the 3 major clans in the central region, and there is a Yulan sword saint. I've heard of the name, but with your young generation, why should I give you face?" After the voice dropped, the purple-robed man's body appeared in front of the array cover. While killing opportunities appeared in his eyes, a palm pounded on the array cover. Compared with the previous time, the purple-robed man's body did not retreat at all. One palm fell, and the ripples on the array cover surged. At the same time, another palm pounded up. The whole array, under his powerful bombardment, he gradually trembled. Inside the array cover, Xiao Yang stared at the amazing bombardment of the purple-robed man, and his heart was also dignified. Even if he did not show any fighting skills, the source respected the strong man could also smash the 7th Order array with his own strong power. Although the array cover was strong, it could not last long under the bombardment of the purple-robed man. At present, his heart was slightly heavy. Xiao Yang also had to quickly mobilize the source gas in his body. While the flame surged in the palm, he quickly condensed into a flame wheel, and a trace of the power of the road also condensed into it. In the face of the strong at Yuanzuan level, the only thing Xiao Yang can resist is the reincarnation of Buddha anger comparable to the skill of the Great Road. Outside, Bai Rong looked at Xiao Yang, who was dignified in the array cover at this time, and couldn't help but show a grim smile on his face. It has to be said that Xiao Yang can easily defeat Bai Ruoxuan of the 4-star source sect with the cultivation of the 2-star source sect. Even if Bai Ruoxuan's carelessness belittles the enemy, there is no doubt about Xiao Yang's excellent terrorist combat power. Today, Xiao Yang fought with Bai Ruoxian, whether from the aspect of Xuanyu Kai, Shenchong Kai, or its heavy damage to Bai Ruoxian, they became an absolute enemy. If the purple-robed man hadn't shot before, maybe Xiao Yang at the moment has become the soul of his hands. Of course, doing so will certainly attract the dissatisfaction of Ouyang family afterwards, but at this time, the purple-robed man's action is to save him a lot of trouble. Today, this son will die. Looking at the golden array cover that looked more and more shaky under the fierce bombardment of the purple-robed people, the radiance of Bai Rong's mouth also expanded more and more. Dang dang. A heavy knock sounded one after another. On the white jade array plate suspended in front of Xiao Yang, there were tiny cracks quietly. Looking at this, it seems that it can't support for a long time. The Buddha anger reincarnation condensed in his palm may take some time to gather. At present, Xiao Yang had to work harder to condense the source qi and Buddha anger reincarnation in his body, but his greatest reliance now. On one side, Ouyang Miao's face became more and more gloomy. Seeing that the array cover was about to disappear, he shouted again. Even if you don't give the younger generation this face today, you should stop for the sake of my Ouyang family. Otherwise, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to end in the future. Gaga, gaga, boy, it's kind of crazy to talk. I do have the style of Ouyang family, but my purpose today is to kill this boy, which has nothing to do with your Ouyang family. If you do it, don't blame me for my ruthlessness. Bang. At the same time, a dry palm of the purple-robed man finally pierced through the array cover in front of him, and then his arm shook violently. Then, the golden array cover in front of him broke quickly in a snap, and the white jade array plate suspended in front of Xiao Yang also trembled violently. Then, it was broken out of thin air, it turned into a pile of powder and fell down. When the array cover was broken, Xiao Yang's face suddenly changed. The purple-robed man smiled grimly, turned his right hand, bent his 5 fingers into claws, and suddenly rushed forward and grabbed Xiao Yang's throat with one hand. Almost at the same time, Ouyang Miao beside Xiao Yang, after a short hesitation, moved and stood in front of Xiao Yang. At the same time, the source gas in his body gushed out unreservedly. Holding it with his right hand out of thin air, a long black gun fell into his palm. While the water stains on the tip of the gun circulated, water curtains attached to it in the void around him, then his face was especially dignified and he stabbed a gun forward. If you are stubborn, you can't blame yourself. Seeing this scene, the purple-robed man's face sank and his wrist twisted slightly. The claws rushed forward, immediately turned the direction and grabbed a long gun stabbed in front of him. However, when the distance between the two was less than 10 feet, the void between them suddenly twisted violently. Then, an unparalleled terrible edge burst out from here, like a storm. While shaking the purple-robed man's body back, Ouyang Miao's body and the long gun in his hand, unexpectedly, he was frozen in the air, and it was difficult to move a penny. When the unparalleled edge gradually dispersed, what fell in the sight of everyone was a long sword hanging in the void. At the moment when everyone saw the long sword, several people in the Bai family, as well as Xiao Yang and his party, couldn't help showing a shocked expression on their faces. Naturally, the people of the Bai family need not say more. As for Xiao Yang and his gang, although this long sword is much smaller in size, its grain and sharp edge are no different from the giant sword outside Shengjin City. This sword is the Yulan sword. Yulan sword comes out, that is to say, its master should also come. This is Yulan sword. On the ground below, Bai Rong saw the sharp long sword hanging in the void. His pupils suddenly shrunk, and the look on his old face also changed. He couldn't help scolding the purple-robed man. If this guy hadn't ignored the face of Ouyang family and shot at Ouyang Miao, maybe the Yulan sword wouldn't appear here. Now the Yulan sword is out, Ouyang Miao protects Xiao Yang. Naturally, the purple-robed man can't kill Xiao Yang. This is the orchid sword. It is said that there is a orchid sword saint in Ouyang family who fought against the 3 source masters on his own. Today, I want to learn 1 or 2. The purple-robed man narrowed his eyes, stared at the void on the side of Yulan's sword and said in a deep voice, "Hehe, I don't deserve it. I just hope you can stop. All the visitors are guests. Ouyang family should treat them respectfully. It's not what I want to do today. You might as well expose this matter in my face." After the voice of the purple-robed people fell, the void they looked at was gradually distorted. Then, a middle-aged man in blue appeared with his hands behind him and looked at the purple-robed man not far from him with a warm smile. At the same time, Ouyang Miao behind him gradually converged into his body. Together with the energy condensed on the long gun, it was also successively transformed into Ouyang Miao's body. The rigid body suddenly recovered as usual. The middle-aged man is dressed in green, with a handsome body, a hair crown and a firm face. A pair of sword eyebrows make him not angry and powerful. His dark eyes contain a sharp light like a hawk and falcon. If he hadn't deliberately restrained, few people would be able to look directly at him. And this man is the second best man in Ouyang's family. The outside world is respected as Yulan's sword saint. Ouyang Yu, I can give you face. As long as you hand him over, I will turn around and leave immediately. The purple-robed man pointed to Xiao Yan and opened his mouth with a grim smile. He was bloodthirsty and murderous in his eyes, but he didn't hide it at all. As soon as he said this, Ouyang Miao's face suddenly changed, his feet moved slightly to one side and stood in front of Xiao Yan, but his eyes looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. When the latter turned his head, he smiled at Ouyang Miao, glanced over Xiao Yan's face, turned his eyes, looked at the man in purple again, smiled, but slowly shook his head and said, "Sorry, this little friend is also a guest of my Ouyang family. Since he is in my Ouyang family, I don't have the reason to take poor care of him. I hope you will forgive me." Hearing the speech, the purple-robed man's face suddenly became gloomy. The source qi in his body surged, and the low words also spit out. "Don't you give it. Please forgive me." Ouyang Yu smiled calmly, his eyes shining. Hiss. Almost at the moment when the voice fell in his mouth, the purple-robed man suddenly rushed forward, and the sound of breaking the air rang through. The short distance between the two was close in an instant. The purple-robed man bent his 5 fingers into claws and grabbed the middle-aged man's chest. "I want to see. You swordsman, have some skills." The crooked claws tore out dark cracks in the void. Strong energy gathered between the 5 fingers, wrapped with a fierce wind, and fiercely inserted into the chest of the middle-aged man. If this blow fell, I'm afraid it would be Ouyang Yu's accomplishments, which would lead to serious injury in an instant. Buzz. However, just as the sharp claws were close to his body shape for nearly 1 meter, the Yulan sword suspended in the void on one side seemed to feel something. It came to Ouyang Yu's body in an instant. With the 3-finger-wide sword body, it was solid to block the attack of the purple-robed man. What? The purple-robed man was startled. His attack was easily stopped by the long sword, and Ouyang Yu didn't even take action. He still looked at him like a light wind and light clouds. Then his mind moved. On the sword body, a fierce and domineering sword spirit burst out, and fell on the purple-robed man's palm. With a burst of sparks, a stream of blood spilled out one after another. With this blow, the purple-robed man suddenly retreated and looked down. There was a scarlet sword mark in the palm. The fierce tingling made the whole arm shake uncontrollably, and the muscles on his face couldn't help a violent convulsion. Fortunately, he had the source qi to resist, otherwise the palm would be cut off by the sword qi. What a terrible sword! The purple-robed man's face sank and his mouth whispered. He couldn't help feeling a burst of dignity in his heart. "I hope you can stop here." Ouyang Yu smiled. His smile was still simple and calm, but he was especially under pressure. After that, Xiao Yan looked at the calm appearance of the middle-aged man in front of him. He couldn't help sighing. He had already shown such strong combat power before he officially took the shot. Together with the purple-robed people who were the source of the strong, they retreated one after another. It's hard to imagine how terrible it would be once Ouyang Yu showed real cultivation. Yulan Sword Saint really deserves his reputation. Hearing Ouyang Yu's words, the purple-robed man's face was uncertain. The death of Scorpion Mountain once made him very sad. He vowed to avenge his dead son, but now the enemy is close at hand, but he has nothing to do. How can he bear it? A pair of dark red eyes stared at Xiao Yan. After a long time, the purple-robed man bit his teeth, unwilling to lower his head, and said in a low voice, "I lost." Having said that, while he lowered his head, an extremely strong sense of resentment suddenly appeared in his cloudy old eyes. Ouyang Yu lifted his eyelids and nodded slightly. After hearing this, Ouyang Miao's hanging heart fell down. However, at the next moment, I think I'm not your opponent. I can admit defeat, but this boy must die. The purple-robed man suddenly looked up. At the same time, his body was suddenly shocked, and the source gas in his body suddenly burst out wildly. A powerful momentum also diffused out at the moment, with amazing momentum. On the ground below, Bai Rong felt the strong breath emanating from the purple-robed human body, and the look on his face could not help changing slightly. Although this guy has a domineering attitude, he also has his capital, Sanqing Yuanzuan. Such accomplishments are much stronger than him. The source gas surged violently. Through the gap shocked by several people present, the purple-robed man's body flashed suddenly, and he crossed Ouyang Yu at a high speed and shot at Xiao Yang. Boy, take your life. This video will end here.